Welcome to my 1/6 scale Star Wars collection video. We've got quite a lot of figures to get through today in 4 different detolfs, but I wanted to start with this display on top here because I love the Scout Trooper. It's always my favourite trooper. And I got this Black Series Scout Trooper helmet, and of course the Return of the Jedi Hot Toys Scout Trooper on speeder bike, and the Mandalorian Hot Toys Scout Trooper on speeder bike. So let's take a quick look at these because these are fantastic figures. I mean, look at the little bits of weathering there. Just little bits of green and dirt and everything. And the weathering on the Mandalorian one is even better. But this is just perfect. I mean, if you're a fan of Return of the Jedi, you just got to get this if you can afford it because it's just amazing. Really fantastic figure. I think it's kind of underrated too because they're kind of everywhere at the moment. But yeah, take a look at the weathering on this one. It seems like a little bit much on camera, but in person it just seems like the right amount of weathering. But the details are just fantastic on both these figures. Of course, they're very, very similar, but there are a lot of differences. And hopefully you can see these little lights here. These lights were a couple of dollars from Diorama, and they're brilliant. They're battery powered and rechargeable, and you can also leave them plugged in, which is what I intend to do. But now let's get into the detolfs. So to make this easy, I'm going to go shelf by shelf, and shelf 1 is Darth Maul. How cool is this figure? I mean, just look at the face. The detail is fantastic. And the interesting thing about this figure, if I can do it without knocking the camera, is he actually has a magnetic head, which is a bit strange, but kind of cool. And I kind of feel like it would be cool if Hot Toys did all of their figures with these magnetic heads. But the level of detail and just the presence of this figure is fantastic. It just looks exactly how you would expect and want it to look. And these do have wires in, so you can kind of pose it, and it does give quite a flare of motion to it. It does come with this base, but the base has 2 options. It has this surface or like a sand surface, but I went with the sort of Duel of the Fates surface, even though I've got the speeder in the background there. And talking of the speeder, it does have some light functions on it, which aren't currently plugged in, but it's also very detailed. Sorry, out of focus there. It's also very detailed, very cool. And you get the little probe droid thing. I'm not sure the exact name of this little droid, but it comes on a little base there with a clear stick to hold it up. But yeah, what a fantastic figure. And this is the deluxe version, which just comes with like an extra sort of hologram. But yeah, I mean, what a fantastic figure. And just look at the facial sculpt on that. It does to me look like Ray Park. And yeah, I'm just really, really impressed with this figure. Shelf 2 in this detolf is awesome. I absolutely love this pair. They go really well together. And just to be clear, these 2 bases are actually from another set that I'll mention later. But this is obviously the Mando Bo-Katan. And next to her is the Chrome Mando, which is an absolutely fantastic figure. The only problem I find with this figure is that it's so shiny that it never looks very bright. It always looks very dark. It kind of reflects all of the darkness around it. It's kind of like a mirror in a dark room. And this room isn't particularly dark, so it actually looks fantastic if you look at all the details. And if you want to see the chrome close up, there you go. You can see the kind of finish on there. But take a look at the gun. Yeah, this figure is just amazing. Really, really impressive figure. But it does look a lot darker than the previous Mando if you have that one. But then again, it's a trade-off. You get chrome and it looks fantastic in response. And this Bo-Katan figure is just fantastic. I love the materials that they've used on this. Like, if you look closely here, all of that little stitching and all the materials coupled with the armor just looks amazing. And they work really well on these two bases. Just kind of like reenacting a scene there from Series 3, I think, where they're underground. Might have been the end of Series 2, I'm not sure. But yeah, two absolutely fantastic figures. I should have mentioned that those two figures are both Hot Toys, because in this case, these three are not all Hot Toys. You can see Bib Fortuna there is actually Sideshow, and he is a fantastic figure. He's got a lot of depth to him, a lot of kind of little details and sort of atmosphere. And let me get closer to the face there. Just fantastic for an old Sideshow figure. You know, they do the aliens really well. And this one is Hot Toys, this Lando from Empire. I absolutely love this gun. The details on that gun are fantastic. I'm sure there's another figure with that gun as well. But Lando is really underrated. Really fantastic figure. It's got quite a lot of small details that you wouldn't really notice at a glance. Like if you go into the belt, you can see there. And the facial sculpt is just like amazing. It really does look like him. It's fantastic. But then we've got the Hoth Han Solo. And this is a custom. This is one I made. I made from parts from an old Hasbro figure. But then I bought a new body. I bought this head on eBay. I think it was like $20-$30 Canadian. And I made all of the leather. And the gun came with it, but I painted it. And then the boots were kind of like Hot Toys reject boots from Luke Skywalker that you can buy in China from AliExpress. And it all comes together pretty well. I mean, the facial sculpt is, I would say it's very much like him, yeah, but level of detail wise, it's a little bit soft on the details compared to like an official Hot Toys or Sideshow or something like that. But yeah, I just kind of put these three together because there's no real collection I can put them with. So let's move on to the bottom shelf. So for the bottom shelf of Detolf 1, we have some really interesting figures. These are all Hot Toys. And the first one I'm going to look at is, I think this is like a tank trooper or something from Mandalorian. I just can't remember the name. But I've put the Pedro Pascal head sculpt that came with the Chrome Mando on it. Because obviously he wore this outfit in the series when he unmasked himself for the first time. And this is a really, really underrated figure. I mean, even without the Pedro Pascal head sculpt, this just looks fantastic. It's a really cool looking figure. It doesn't really get the love that it deserves. And then over here, of course, we've got Boba Fett from the Book of Boba Fett, or Boba Fett, however you want to say it. I was kind of brought up to say it that way, so it doesn't necessarily mean there's a right or wrong way of saying it. But this is a really, really cool figure. There's a lot of detail here and a lot of layers. Just even on the legs and the boots. Just really interesting. I love all the sort of leather work. And those little details. I mean, the facial sculpt, everyone raves about this. It is like Tamora Morrison. It just looks fantastic. I mean, again, the facial sculpt on this one is, well, not as good, but it's pretty good. And then, of course, without forgetting, we've got IG-11 in the background there, sort of holding his weapons. I did take off the little bandolier because for some reason, the Hot Toys bandolier just looks really janky. But this is also a really fantastically detailed figure with excellent paint job. And you'll see what I mean when I show you IG-88 later. The Sideshow IG-88 looks nowhere near as good in terms of paint work. But the figure itself is more preferable for me. But yeah, this is a great little team up of figures. The IG-11 does look a bit strange without the bandolier, but some fantastic figures there. Now into Detolf 2. I know I keep saying all of these figures are fantastic, but that's because I like them. That's why I bought them. But these are 3 of my favorites. And let's come in a little bit closer. Let's start with Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto is a Sideshow figure. And I'm not really sure why he has a kind of pinkish looking tunic, but I'm pretty sure in the movie it's not that color. But I absolutely love this. The one complaint I would say is that the boots are not split cut, and he requires a stand to stand up because his legs are a little bit wibbly wobbly there. But look at the details. And just the overall presence of this figure is fantastic. I know I keep saying fantastic, but I mean it. I love all of these figures, that's why I have them. And this was a grail for me. In fact, Kit Fisto was a grail for me too, but this was a grail I was hunting for quite a while, and Mrs. Talon got it for me because she's amazing and finds everything. I really love the cloak on Qui-Gon. Really nice sort of like faux suede. Let's come in a little bit closer so you can have a look. It just has a weight to it that's perfect. But I mean, for an older figure, the head sculpt is just amazing. And I really, really love this. Yes, the hair does get in the way. He's not very articulate with his head because of the hair. But for every other purpose, I mean, this is just a fantastically detailed figure. And then here we have the Sideshow Yoda. The one thing I would want to improve about this is the hair. It'd be cool to have some real hair. I'll talk about the Yoda and the hair situation later. But yeah, I mean, for this figure is cheap, and it's seriously cheap. It comes with a chair, it comes with extra head, hands, feet, it comes with everything. And you know, for what you pay, I mean, it's like half the price of a Hot Toys. Why would you not get this figure? It's just, I mean, together these 3 are fantastic. And no, I did not just fall over something then, honest. Shelf 2 in Detolf 2, another corker. I mean, look at this Jango Fett. Let's get in closer. Absolutely love the Hot Toys Jango Fett. Fantastic figure. Fantastic level of detail. I mean, I don't really have any complaints about it. I've never seen the Sideshow one in person. This one, for my money, is just great. I mean, there's nothing I could say negative about this figure. I mean, you could complain about the actual costume from the movie, but as the figure goes, as a representation of that costume from the movie, it's just brilliant. I love the little jetpack features on the back there, where you can have the little blasts of fire. And then we've got, of course, the battle droid. That's also Hot Toys. Fantastic weathering. My one complaint about this, though, is that it's very red looking. Like, more red than I expected, and a little bit more red in person than it looks on the camera here. Great details, though. Great articulation. Comes with that nice little base as well. And then, obviously, I have another one here, which is a custom one I did from an old Hasbro figure. Something I'm going to make a video on at some point. You know, this figure is $35 Canadian. Has half the articulation of the Hot Toys one, but pretty much all the same details. And once painted, it looks different from this one, but not that bad. Now, if ever there was a Grail that deserved a lot of attention for its head sculpt, Tarkin is it. And of course, this is Hot Toys, and the droid is Sideshow. So let's get in closer and take a look at this head sculpt. I'm sorry I have to shuffle across the floor here just to get in. But look at that. I mean, it's flawless. Absolutely flawless head sculpt. And you want to take a closer look at this, definitely check out TK41 Collectibles video. He does some really amazing videos and a really good close look at this figure. But I mean, this is a grail for a lot of people, and the only reason I could afford it is because we traded a bunch of stuff in and we used the trade credit. Otherwise I would never pay the amount this is worth in cash. Not at all. Obviously comes with this chair, which is pretty detailed as well, and it does look like metal, but it is plastic. It's just an odd thing to try and pose. Like, how do you pose him in the chair? I've tried, it doesn't look very good. And this droid is the Sideshow one. I'll put on the screen which specific droid it is because I can never remember his name. I think it's J2 something, or no, maybe that's the other droid. But this is a fantastic figure, and if you look at the finish, even though it's plastic, it does, the way the light falls on it, it does look like it's metal. It's kind of dark, but hopefully you can see the details. And I absolutely love this droid. This is one of my favorite droids, and I love droids. But that's also a relatively inexpensive figure. But it goes really well with Tarkin, I think. And any Imperial figures, not that we have many officers. That's something I'll talk about later. So for the final shelf in DTOF 2, we got a bit of a mishmash here. We've got the Hot Toys Armorer and the Hot Toys Boba Fett, and it's part of the base from Bo-Katan. And I'll just come in a bit closer, and forgive me for all of the jumpy camera work. This figure, I absolutely love this. This was my favourite Boba Fett for a little while. Sorry if the pronunciation's irritating. I can say Boba Fett or Boba Fett. Just let me know in the comments how you prefer to say that, and I'll go with whatever's the most popular, because I honestly don't mind how I say it. I'm just used to saying Boba Fett. But look at this. I mean, the paint detail, let's come in closer on the paint detail. That's kind of next level for Hot Toys, really. That is really impressive. Especially if you compare it over to the Armorer's detail and paint job. It's nowhere near as good as this. But this is a really detailed figure. Has a lot of layer to it. And he came with the bases that I mentioned before, which Bo-Katan and Chrome Mando were using. But, you know, this is also a really underrated figure, the Armorer. It does look a little clean, yes, but it also looks just like the Armorer. And it just has a really nice aesthetic presence. I would recommend it. It's not amazing, it's not mind-blowing, it's not a character that everybody's crazy about, but it's just a really good figure. And together, the two of these looked cool together, because to be honest, these detolfs are the secondary detolfs. The other two, now they are my pride and joy, and those ones are going to have something really interesting inside. So with the next two detolfs, we're going to go out of sync a little bit here. We're going to go from left to right on each shelf, because that's kind of how I've set it out. But here you can see the Return of the Jedi, Leia and Wicket. And it didn't take a lot to put this together, but it does look really cool. So let's go in on Leia first. This is an underrated figure. I mean, everyone gets this for the double pack with Wicket, and that's totally understandable because Wicket is fantastic. But, you know, the head sculpt on this Leia is really good. And some of the details are just really fantastic, and I just love this figure. I think it's great. Especially if you're a Jedi fan. You know, this is a must-have. But let's get over to the Wicket, because that's the one that everyone's going to want to see. And this is definitely like a Grail for me. You know, I loved Wicket when I was a kid. I've always thought he was a cute character, he was a cool character, and I always wanted to have like a fuzzy kind of version of him. And you know, this does it. This does the job. And the details are just amazing, and it's still fully articulated as well, which is really impressive. But just look at the face sculpt on it. I mean, the prototype, when that picture came out, was not very good. But this has lived up to it. It's definitely made a change, and it's definitely made up for that prototype. But when I put this together, I actually bought this this sort of dead tree thing from a store that sells, pet supplies and things like that. And I think it was originally for a fish tank or for some sort of tank. But it works really well making this little scene. So let's go over and check out Luke. It might not look like it, but this actually took a lot of work to put together. And this figure of Luke from Empire Strikes Back is probably one of my favorite figures. And definitely a Grail piece. I know it's a dime a dozen these days, and I have no idea why, because it's absolutely just detailed, and it couldn't be any better. I can't think of anything that I could do to improve this figure. And the head sculpt is probably the best Luke Skywalker head sculpt I've seen, at least, from Hot Toys. But look at the details of his clothing. And all the little details on his helmet. I mean, this is just... I know I keep using the word fantastic, but it really is. It's next level. It's one of Hot Toys' best figures, in my opinion. I would definitely put it up there with Tarkin and some of the other more impressive head sculpts and figures that they've done. But this Yoda is kind of a temporary experiment. I've got another video I'm going to do on these displays, but the Yoda is a Sideshow Yoda, and I do love it. But this is not the original head and hands. It came with the other Yoda that you saw earlier. And the original one is a lot lighter color green, and I put hair on it and everything, and I'd like to show that off at some point. But for now, this one's fine. I do prefer the other one slightly with the other head and hands, but fantastic figure as well from Sideshow. Very cheap again. The other one is the same molds, it's just lighter green paint. And I actually bought these accessories from the Hot Toys Yoda on eBay, and I worked them into the scene. And this log came with the Yoda, and this snake up here, which is actually bendable and posable. And then all the other pieces I got from the same pet store. And these sort of baobab looking trees here, they're actually two. One's upside down on top of the other. But I love this Dagobah display, and I did it because I really love the Luke Skywalker figure. So let's move on. Well, you can't have a Star Wars collection without some A New Hope figures. And, oh god, these are just amazing. And if you look over there, we'll get to those ones in a moment. But let's pull into C-3PO here for a second. And this is the Sideshow C-3PO. The lights are currently on. If you just give me a second, I'll show you how they turn on and off. You just tap the back there. They are a little bit brighter in real life, but this figure is fantastic. I love this figure. I am waiting on the Return of the Jedi Hot Toys one to come out. I got that on pre-order, but for now I can't complain about this figure, and it's relatively cheap as well. I mean, look at the head sculpt, look at the details. It's definitely worth getting. And before we go over to old Obi-Wan, let's see if we can brighten this up a little bit. This Luke Skywalker head sculpt from Hot Toys is not great. It's definitely not my favorite. I don't think it looks like him, but the figure itself as a whole is great. Has some great little details, and it's the only A New Hope Luke Skywalker that I know of that Hot Toys have made. It does come with the little blast shield helmet and the little drone, but I don't have them on display. But this is again another one of Hot Toys' best head sculpts. Absolutely fantastic Obi-Wan Kenobi head sculpt there. Let me just adjust the camera slightly so you can see a bit more details. There you go. But it looks just like Alec Guinness. And the posture and the body, for some reason, it just fills out exactly like Alec Guinness and feels like the way he stands. But yeah, this is an amazing figure. And of course, where would we be without R2-D2? This again is Hot Toys, and again has loads of great weathering details on. This is the one from Attack of the Clones, I think. It's a recent one, but I wanted the weathered one so it looked like it had been on Tatooine. You can't have a New Hope collection without these three absolutely amazing figures. And of course, you've got to have Chewie. Look at that. I personally think that this Chewie is really well detailed, really good likeness. I know a lot of people don't think it's that good, but this is the original Chewie from Hot Toys, and I just love it. I think they just nailed it. I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't think so, but I personally think they got all of the fur right. They got the face right. They got all of the accessories correct. I mean, look at that bowcaster. Look at the detail just on the scope of the dirt. I feel like on some of these older Hot Toys Star Wars figures, the weathering on the weapons is a lot more sort of hand done. It's a little bit more attention to detail. But the Han Solo, the likeness is just right in my opinion, but some of the details are a little bit soft now because it's quite an old figure. But what a figure it is. I mean, you can't not have this if you get the opportunity to get it. And we got the Han Solo and Chewbacca as a set. And we could only get it because we traded a bunch of things. There's no way we would pay the prices that these two go for at the moment. And I apologize if it's a little bit dark, the camera. Not very good lighting in this cabinet, I'm afraid. But look at this. I think this is a really great likeness of Carrie Fisher at that time in the first movie. Let's get another angle. And it's a simple figure. And honestly, the camera doesn't do it justice. It is a really good figure. And she really has a lot of presence, which I don't think you can see on camera, but you can in person. These three really stand out. And I think they make for a perfect display. So now we've got ourselves a little bit of an Empire theme going on here. And this display base on the right here is actually from Darth Vader, but I just felt it worked really well with this Boba Fett. And this is the anniversary version of Boba Fett from Hot Toys. Let me get in a little bit closer. The details on this are also really well done. You can see all of the pitting and the sort of scratches and everything. But I think this is a very underrated figure, and I think it probably goes for more than it originally came out as, but I think the price on this one might actually go up quite a lot, because people love Boba Fett, however you want to say it, and it's just, the thing is about this figure, it kind of flies under the radar a little bit, because it's so well done. It's like, well, of course it's great. You know, there's nothing really to complain about with this figure, but it is specifically from Empire, and I just love it. But let's get over to this one, because this is a Sideshow Forlom, and you can't really see with the camera. I think I'm gonna have to get a light and come back to this in a minute. But there is so many details on this Forlom, and look at the gun weathering. Like, that looks like a real gun. It's just an amazing figure, and it's very sturdy. It's actually kind of heavy, but I mean, if you were on the fence about getting a Forlom from Sideshow, because probably Hot Toys won't bring one out, will they? I mean, look at the details there. I would highly recommend this, but I want to show you what its eyes do, and I'm just going to grab a light and show you. So you can see this really well in person, but not so much on the camera. So I'm just going to use a light here to try and show you this. Can you see that green? The light refracts through the plastic, and this green shows up whenever your eye catches it from a certain angle, and it almost glows. It looks amazing, and obviously it's on both eyes, but there you go. You can almost see it there. It looks like an inner glow, and that is one of the great features of this figure. But let's take a look at IG-88. Now you can tell in comparison to IG-11, the paint job is just so much more basic. It looks very plasticky. But the figure itself is actually quite detailed. And actually a really, really nice figure. Like if you come over here, you can see all the little workings there. Sorry for the camera, it's Forlom, he's in the way. Let's move Mr. Forlom out of the way. There you go. There's some nice details, some nice paintwork. The gun looks very good. I would just say that where it falls apart a little bit is his head. The details on the head aren't really there in terms of paint job, but everything else, and also the eyes do light up. But the legs are interesting because the legs extend and actually make him taller. This is in the shorter kind of motion at the moment, and you can see even though he's on a platform there, he's still about the same height. Well, talking of Empire, here is some of the best Empire figures I've seen so far. Darth Vader, the AT-AT driver, and of course, we've got a Stormtrooper. So let's get in closer on these ones. Let's start with the most striking figure here, and that is Darth Vader. And this is the Empire version of Darth Vader. It's the one that came with the base that Boba Fett is on. These parts do light up, and so does the lightsaber, but they're all battery powered, and I don't want to mess around with putting batteries in these figures because they're never going to be switched on other than C-3PO. But then I've also got a Stormtrooper, and I think this is the Stormtrooper Commander that came with from Mandalorian, and I just removed the orange pauldron because I wanted a standard Stormtrooper, and that was the cheapest, easiest way to get one. And it's got a little bit of weathering on it as well, which I kind of like. So over to the pièce de résistance. I love this. This is the AT-AT driver from Sideshow. Some fantastic details there. Really nice finish. Just absolutely amazing figure. I mean, I can't say enough good things about this figure. And I really, really wanted it for quite some time. And I kept looking at it in the store. And by the way, the boots are just like one solid piece there. They're not amazing, but everything else on this figure is. And the presence it has, just amazing. I really wanted this figure for ages. And I think watching TK421 Collectibles video on it really, really swung my decision to get it. And I'm so glad I did. Now, this is a shelf I've been excited to show. These are some of my absolute favorites and grails of my collection. Let's get in a little bit closer. Starting off with an amazing figure, R5-D4 from Hot Toys, and I've been waiting for this figure to come out for ages. I debated getting the Sideshow one, but I really wanted this Hot Toys one because R5 is like my favorite droid. And as you've seen, I've got the kind of Empire version of him as well. But this Mamo Nadon, or Hammerhead as he is also known. What a figure. I know he's kind of plain in comparison to a lot of figures. There's not a lot going on in terms of clothing and weapons and stuff like that. But this Sideshow figure is just perfect for me. I absolutely love his character. I absolutely love this figure, and it takes pride of place in my little Tatooine setup here. And then, of course, we've got the Jawa Hot Toys. I've not switched the lights on. If you watched any reviews on this, you'll know why. It's not very good. It's the only downfall of this figure, but it is one of my favourite figures. It does have some fantastic weathering on there as well, which again feels quite personal with the weathering. Whereas a lot of weapons with the Star Wars Hot Toys, they just feel like they've put them through a machine that made them look like metal these days. But this one's a really good one. And it also comes with the Gonk droid as well in the background there. We can see his little feet. Oh, focus. There we go. And the Gonk droid is a great little droid to have as well. But really you're buying it for the Jawa. But yeah, these three, absolutely fantastic figures. Last, but certainly not least, are the Bounty Hunters. And these are three of my absolute favourite figures. They are 3 Grails, and one of them might even be my favourite figure ever made in 1/6 scale of Star Wars. I'm going to start here with one figure that we all know, which is the Cad Bane from Hot Toys, which recently came out. And just look at that head sculpt. Look at the details. I mean, it does have different interchangeable faces, but wow. I mean, they couldn't have really done this figure any better, I don't think. There's just so much detail. They just did everything right with this figure. I mean, all of the cloth materials and everything look amazing. The only thing I would say is looking at the boots, probably would have done split cut boots just for some articulation so you can have more poses. But yeah, Cad Bane's amazing. Let's skip over Greedo for a second. This was my favourite figure for a long time, and it does come with a standard head. This is the exclusive edition from Sideshow, and so it has the kind of roaring head of Bossk. And Bossk is one of my favourite characters in Star Wars, and the details on this are amazing. Some of the limbs look a little bit janky now. They've aged slightly, like if you look at the hand. But quite honestly, I don't really care. I think this is such a good figure. I really don't care about that. There's some amazing details. Just loads of tiny little wires hanging off and couplings and all kinds of things in this figure. And he is quite tall. You can't really see it because Greedo's on a platform and Cad Bane is quite tall. But yeah, Bossk, Sideshow, I mean, just amazing figure. I would 100% recommend this. I don't think this video is doing it justice, but it's definitely something is worth looking at, and I will do more detailed video on him at some point. But I mean, Greedo, I'm not gonna mince words. I think this is my favourite 1/6 scale Star Wars figure ever made. And I just think it's amazing. We're really lucky to get this for a good price so that we could actually afford it. The details on the head sculpt are phenomenal. The eyes, the way that the eyes work is just like the way that they refract the light just looks amazing. He comes with a hand that has a gun, and he comes with a hand that doesn't. He also comes with a little glass like he's at the cantina. The clothing is fantastic. The level of detail on the belt is pretty much the same as most of the Sideshow figures. He's got some little booties there. This base actually came with IG-88, and there's a couple of figures that came with this base from Sideshow. They light up. They're battery powered. I have little lights there on the back too. I personally have a cable that acts as a battery eliminator to have this on all the time. It's just not plugged in at the moment because I didn't want to clutter the display with wires while I'm doing this video. But Greedo, hands down, my favourite figure of all time, 1/6 scale Star Wars. And it was made by Sideshow. And I think they do really, really good aliens. These older figures of the aliens hold up, whereas the human ones do not. Not really sure how that worked out that way, but I would highly recommend all three of these figures. Greedo, for sure. If you see it for an affordable price and you really like it, I wouldn't hesitate. But unfortunately, a lot of the time it's not for an affordable price. So just know what you're getting. Make sure that the limbs are okay because they're very fickle. They can break easily. There's little pegs inside that snap. So just be careful buying this one. But would definitely recommend it. So that's it for my little collection tour for 2023. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if there's any figures that you've seen here that really kind of caught your interest. Figures that perhaps now you consider buying because you've seen them in this video. And if there's any that you want to see a little bit more in depth, please let me know because I'll probably do videos on most of these. But if someone requests it, I might put it at the top of the list. Thank you for watching.